So Nick, let me just like be honest with you here since okay, I came to America when I was 19. I met a boy on Yahoo Chat and you know how the stories go. So
Oh, thank you for being so candid and transparent. Okay.
yeah, so we fell in love on Yahoo Chat and I thought I would spend the rest of my life with him, So it didn't really go well, obviously, for a good reason. But, so every external milestone for me, like a marriage, an MBA, multiple stick-figure career, it's always felt like a proof, that I finally feel like I belong. So I've always been so obsessed with making things look perfect, kind of back to your original question and what it's like growing up as Pav. If I feel like if things look perfect, maybe I could finally feel safe and being accepted, right? But one day I realized that I couldn't really recognize myself anymore. I look in the mirror and I'm like, who is this woman?
Welcome to your Wordless Podcast, the space where we redefine success, self-worth, and transformation. I am Nick Nieras, the soul-centered architect of transformation, helping you unlock your highest potential and build a legacy beyond limits. Now, whether it is self-mastery, career breakthroughs, or wealth creation, this is where change begins. Now let's dive in.
Thank you so much, Nick. Really great to be here and thank you for introducing me.
I mean, it's the honor is mine. So, Pav, tell us. You said you did a little bit of homework about how this podcast go. So, what was it like growing up as a Pav? Pav L. I'm gonna call Pav L.
What's it like growing up as a Pav L? Well, so
Yeah.
Nick, you're from Malaysia, right? So I'm from Thailand originally. So I think, we are pretty similar in terms of like the culture. So I was born and raised in Thailand and so like generally in Thai culture, we are very peaceful people. So, that kind of ties to the subject on the topic on courage over comfort in a way that okay, like because we are being peaceful as a woman, sometimes you tend to choose safety, right? And like try to make people feel happy, please everyone. So I think like growing up, I was having a little bit of a hard time because I've been a rebel, but then the cultural norm has been telling me that, oh, I need to, really be the quiet one in the corner and not really speak up. So, now that I've learned my lessons, so I know that yeah, it's been a very interesting journey.
Okay, we're gonna dive into your backstory. Tell us what brought you to the States and your evolution. There's heartbreak, there's identity loss, and your work as well. So, can you break it down for us?
Yeah.
Are you stuck in a job that you don't love, feeling like you're meant for more? It is not in your head, it is in your soul. I am Nick Nieras and I help high achievers like you break free from burnout, rewire self-doubt, and build a life aligned with purpose through coaching, hypnotherapy, and soul activation. Because let's face it, real wealth isn't just about money, it is about aligned and happy heart, mind, and soul. Now, remember, you are worthy and you are enough. Let's transform your life together. Visit www.thenicknieras.holisticlifestyle.com to begin.
So Nick, let me just like be honest with you here since so okay, I came to America when I was 19. I met a boy on Yahoo Chat and you know how the stories go. So
Oh, thank you for being so candid and transparent. Okay.
yeah, so we fell in love on Yahoo Chat and I thought I would spend the rest of my life with him, So it didn't really go well, obviously, for a good reason. But, so every external milestone for me, like a marriage, an MBA, multiple stick-figure career, it's always felt like a proof, that I finally feel like I belonged. So I've always been so obsessed with making things look perfect, kind of back to your original question and what it's like growing up as Pav, because if I feel like if things look perfect, maybe I could finally feel safe and being accepted, right? But one day I realized that I couldn't really recognize myself anymore. I look in the mirror and like, who is this woman? So it's like kind of like I was performing my life and not really living it. And that was when the version of success that I built stopped working and I gave myself an approval, I can finally, I should be myself again. And I never went back since. But, when I say like I never went back, courage over comfort is something that you have to choose over and over again. It's kind of like a muscle that you need to build until like it's never going to be perfect.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, I can. For those listening, my hands are like high up right here because I too, I think growing up, raised by Asian parents, I don't know about you, but that for me, my dad has always instilled inside within us, sisters that, education is key. Therefore, that's the key to changing your life. So you have to have this great A's and get a good paying job, get this, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
Ignoring what do we actually, what do we live for? So I too was humbled by life, in a way. Hearing your story just really reinforces the fact that we all have that voice within us and it's always nudging. It's super super subtle and soft, but the more we go through life and the more we ignore it, it's just going to pull us back into what we're meant to do. So I think your courage over comfort is just the perfect portrayal of that story, right? Your heartbreak and then I and some other twists and turns that you had to go through, and it all led to where you're supposed to be, which is now you're here with me talking about this.
Yes, after a long journey.
Yes, after a long journey. So, okay, courage over comfort. Why do people, they know, listening for the first time maybe, or again, this is like uh, it's like we're spinning like a broken record here. But why do you think they still are stuck, even though they know they need to make the move?
I see. That is such a great question, Nick. And I'll be honest with you, I still ponder. I still ponder about this all the time. I think part of it is because how, like we talked about earlier on, like the societal norm has conditioned us to think that, okay, when you are in the comfort zone, it means that you are respectable. It means that you are safe. So whatever that you do that it feels a little bit out of the social norm, even if it's a good thing for you, you kind of you kind of feel like you're boxed in a way because you don't want to like displease someone. You don't want to be like that spotlighted and like everybody talks
Too
about you.
loud.
Exactly. Exactly. So I think that could be part of why like it's a combination of fears and also like the standards that we live in.
What was your first thought that you knew that okay, this isn't panning out the way that I hope it would be? So what's my next step? Like I could feel that you're a person who has exit strategies. So, but then of course, exit strategies, it comes with heartbreak because you hope for this, but then you have to plan for the worst. At least this is what I can gauge. Hi, I'm Nick Nieras, your host of the Your Worthless podcast. Now, if this real raw stories hit home, don't wait. Please follow, like, and subscribe my Spotify and YouTube. For bite-sized inspirational reels, follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn. Don't wait. Your transformation starts today. Thank you, and bye for now.
I would say okay now a little bit, yes, of I think like a little bit of having a backup plan and exit strategy and also not having exit strategy. I think, so like back to the time that when I first met this Yahoo chat boy, things didn't work out, but I had like all high hopes that, oh, this is gonna work out. And it didn't. and it made me feel like a failure. And I think like this is what you talk a lot about, like, in your podcast as well, right? About like self-worth. It made me felt unworthy. I think that was the theme there. And kind of like to the point that it has shifted my view in how I see life, as in like, okay, from not having a backup plan to eventually becomes more risk averse and have like plan B, C, D, E, But then when like along the way, Nick, I realized that sometimes you can plan all you want. So I remember the time when I applied for MBA programs, they asked you this question: what do you want to do like 5 years from now? What is your short term, immediate term, long term goals? And just right before we talked like about a few weeks ago, I reread the whole essay that I wrote in MBA program. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not any of those, and I do not want to be any of those I thought I would want it to become. So I think in a way, it's good that you don't have always have plan, and go with the flow. And I think like that ties to what we talked about earlier before the chat about like, why having faith is so important. Because, at the end of the day, like I believe in God. I am a Catholic, and I believe that once you surrender your life, your faith, your path to God, God never steer you wrong.
Oh, how powerful. I have chills. And it's so the moment I know, right? When you said you no matter how thorough you've planned something, but then when God says, okay, enough, trying to control your own life, let me take over. The moment you let go, the way appears. And even if you're in such a dire state, you feel like there's no help, you're still going to be provided for. I've been in those situations, at least last year itself. So a little bit about my story. I think you've heard of it. Left the corporate job last year, got laid off because of the restructuring, and I was forced into the whole entrepreneurship. And I was already dabbling into podcasting and this coaching, but that's when I think God was saying, "Okay, you are not really serious," because I wouldn't have left if it was for my own, because I still would choose safety. I would still go for that stable paycheck. Come on.
Of
It,
course.
yeah.
Especially in
So
this economy.
exactly. Yeah. And but that opened up whatever happened opened up so many doors for me again. Like I reconnected with my family. Finally I visited the States and I wanted to actually set up my community there, but now I'm back home because I think there's a big purge happening in the States right now. I mean, my heart and prayers all go to the people there right now, and it's not a laughing matter for sure, but it's also like, but the fact that I'm here and technology allows us to speak like this, and it's a connection. So whatever, after all of this settles, we will be here. Perhaps I would love to also meet up with you, Pav, one day. And because I think we can I've met so many people there. And the first time I went, I met at least five of my guests from the show. Yeah, so it's happening. People who are stepping into their purpose, we are the next leaders in our own right. We don't have to be like whoa whoa, but as long as we can impact one person at a time, we're already carrying out our mission
Yeah, totally,
in life.
Nick. And I think the work that you are doing is so important because, especially in these days and age, I know that there are so many books and shows or sources where people can get information from, but like the fact that you actually interviewing people in real time that actually been through things, it's really kind of like put things in perspective. Especially like when I've been listening to your podcast, like I'm like, wow, I didn't really know that things XYZ like really happen to people, and I was like, I thought it was me. I thought it was me. It was just me, like the only one that things happen to. But no, it's not, and really helps put things in perspective that like you're not the only one and that are facing through things. So thank you so much for all the work that you have done. Really, really God's work. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Phil.
And One thing I'll tell you this though, I believe that, so Nick, I believe that like God never wastes plan. So like every challenge, everything that we have gone through, He's just preparing us for the next version of ourselves, right? And when you were talking about, you getting laid off, and I mean, the fact that you have overcome like that challenge, it is a big challenge, and it happened to so many people these days now. But what, like, I can relate to that experience in a sense that, like, okay, although I've never been laid off, but I could relate to that in a sense that I got divorced, right? So like when I got married to a man, the first rich man that I could like grab a hold of. I'll just tell you this, since we're talking about, like, we were very very direct, right? And we are talking about the truth here. So I'll be the first one to admit that I used to be a gold digger. I ever since I was young, for whatever reason, I never really believed in myself, that I didn't think that I could, like, make money on my own. I never thought that I would be able to make it on my own. And so that's why, like, when I first got to MBA, the only thing that I thought to myself was, okay, one of my gold digger mentors was telling me that, to meet a rich man, you have to go, to them like where they are. And I'm like, okay, what would be a better place than a top MBA program? So I actually went to a top MBA program and graduated just to attract rich men. And now I'm thinking of this like, oh my gosh, this is like so insane, Pav. Like the fact that I thought I was that worthless, that was like, that's something that really angers me. Like, if I look at the Pav from 10, 20 years ago, I'm like, I cannot recognize you. Like, this is I have, yeah, and in a way, like, I felt so proud of myself that I've grown. But anyway, so back to like the point about God, I think, and kind of like how you wanted to, in a way, deep down, you thought about, okay, like you wanted to do things on your own, but then God forced you through layoff to finally pursue entrepreneurship. I think for me, it's similar in a way on my divorce story, that because I got married without love, by choosing what I thought was safe, my safety, right? God actually forced me to eventually like realize that is not the right path and I'm going in the wrong path. And once you recognize that, you can never go back, because
Yeah.
you know now what is the real path that you're
First of all, I want to hug you for being so open. Thank you for sharing. I too got divorced. So but that was back in 2019. My family were kind of against it. My friends too, some of them. But then I said, okay, you know what? I'm still gonna go ahead. Then things happened. Of course, there were money issues as well, and we didn't get to know each other that thoroughly, and we fell apart after 2 years. But in hindsight, all of this are just uncovering or just peeling off the layers of what I thought life supposed to be. By 30, I had planned that I should be at this high flying job, married with kids. But at 30, it's like everything started again for me. Everything fell apart. I got my divorce, my burnout at this great company, and then forced to start from scratch,
relate.
which is the entrepreneurship. Yes. And it's 5 years in right now. 2025 is 5 years in of rebuilding. And being a high achiever, I've always said to myself, Nick, we're the hardest on ourselves, right? When we don't achieve something, we criticize. But if we do that to our best friends, they would leave us. So why do we do that to ourselves? Because we live with our own thoughts until we die. So that's actually when I started to think that, hey, actually, the answer is within. It's not external validation, it's not success or what success looks like to the society. What does success mean to you? Is it having a great cup of coffee or tea, or just being able to call your friend for a good chat of 30 minutes, or just travel for a bit just, out of town. You don't even have to, splurge. I guess what I'm trying to say here for those listening, it's about realizing what's important and what are you here for? How do you want to make people feel after you left the room? That's the thing that I ponder a lot. And I love your story. I love your transparency, Pav. I think more and more people are waking up to that. It's not shameful to be, at least you're accepting. You've accepted that and you've made peace with it and you're moving forward. I think that's the transformational
Yeah.
path right there.
Totally. And I think like when you talk about like what success looks right? You didn't bring up about, oh, it's about the money, it's about a title, it's about statuses. Because I think like that's what the society is conditioning us to believe that's what success is like. And that's how I I bought into what success looked like for me when I was younger. I think the important thing is to recognize that comfort can look like success as well. And, in my past life, like we talk about like how I got a rich husband, I got big paycheck, I got degrees, a big house and everything. But like deep down, when you talk about like we just need to be true to ourselves. I didn't really recognize myself at the time. I felt like I was just acting or like an NPC, and when I'm supposed to be the main
You're just
character.
floating.
Exactly, exactly. And the scary part is, I think a lot of us, especially, speaking of the high achievers, we are really good at acting in this sense, right? And I think like that's why comfort is so dangerous. And for me, I have been floating through my life for now 43 years, not recognizing how dangerous comfort is. And but even worse, I've been seeking comfort. In fact, I think like the courage is where we should center ourselves. And then from there, once we have courage, then we can pick the right path that we're going into.
And I want to talk about judgment, preconceived notion about what people have to you and what is it exactly. How should people navigate that? And I think it pivots us back to the courage, right? So talk to us about that in your opinion and maybe your own example.
So like the question is like what it feels like to be judged
Yeah.
and how do
Yes.
we overcome it?
How do you how do you navigate that? Like what was your any preconceived notion that people place upon you that hey, this is not right. Whatever they're doing is actually projection, but I'm gonna go ahead and do it anyway.
Yeah, I would say okay. The old Pav would obviously take everything personally. But the new Pav, that's the same thing as judgment. I think whatever that you are, say if you are the one being judged, sometimes it might not be you that they're judging, but they're judging the version that they thought you were. Right. So never take things personally. When I was younger, I was so afraid of being judged, afraid to like disappoint my family. I want to like please everybody, always make sure that, okay, like I'm always doing everything right. That somehow, in a way, I feel like I'm losing myself. Like I couldn't really tell like who I was anymore. I lost my identity because in a way, like the version of me that made sense to the world didn't really make sense for me anymore. And, back to what we talk about the success, say if the world perceived that success is that you have X dollars of, money, you have big house, you have, X dollars of like money in the bank or, certain title, but it's not necessarily what you want. You know, Nick, like right before I got divorced, I was like sitting in my big house. Didn't really feel even mine. And I thought to myself, what am I doing here? Like it doesn't really mean anything to me. Like great that I have food on the table. It's great that I have roof over my head, but does one person need like 5 bedroom house? Not really. Does it make you happier? Does it make you richer in spirit? No, it comes down to love. So I think like that's very important. Everything always leads back to love. If you don't have love, if you don't have happiness, if you are not enjoying what you do or who you're with, what are you doing?
I think you hit the nail in the head too, because as I was like spiraling, facing my dark shadows, a couple of years back, I was like, okay, if I could just deduce everything to just one single thing on earth, what is it? And I don't know, somehow I think the spirit came to me and said, it's love. Love others as you want to be loved. And that's when I started looking at things differently now. I mean, we are all humans. We have judgments innate within us. So you cannot help but to judge sometimes, subconsciously. And then we also judge ourselves very harshly because we think of ourselves, number one, very highly, or it could go the other side. We think that we are kind of worthless after what has happened to us, or we attract certain things because of our own choosing. But I think, I think this flows nicely to my next question. The spiritual part, the religion, the faith part, how did that actually help you to become the person who you are?
I would say everything. So, first of all, I am an unconventional Buddhist. What that means is I was born and raised a Buddhist, but Buddhism to me is lifestyle, is the philosophy of life, is the wisdom that I choose to lead my life on. But God or Christianity, in my case, is Catholic because I also believe in Virgin Mary as well. I believe that God is the creator of all. And before, for a long time, I used to be this like manifester, and no offense to anyone believing that in that we all have different faith. But to me, I believe that faith is everything. There were times that I didn't have the 5 years plan. And I think we talked about this earlier before, like, okay, whether we are a person that need backup plans or just kind of go by the flow. I think all of us has this inner knowing, Nick. It's kind of like a whisper in the dark saying to us like, okay, keep going, or no, this is the wrong path, and it's like the voice inside, kind of like what you mentioned before. It's like the voice inside from God that is telling you and steering you, okay, this is the right path. Even sometimes it's really scary. I think like for me these days, whatever I do, I always pray. I pray to God and I surrender my path to God. If this is something like I always like have this conversation to God now that like, dear, hey God, if this is something that is for the goodness, for my highest good, right? That is something that's going to help people, it's going to help me. Like, please clear the way for me so that I can actually pursue that goal. Like, make it so effortless. I don't really, I want my soft life now. So I think like it's so important to me these days to have this conversation with God and surrender my path to God. And, instead of like in the past, it's always like, okay, 5 years plan. I need to make this perfect. I need to make this happen. I realized that you can always plan for, I don't know, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years from now, but we all know that things don't go as planned. The only thing that always go as planned is when you go in God's plan and he will clear the way for you.
I love when you said, if it's for my highest good, then let's clear the way and the soft life. Like, I remember, no, not remember. I remember telling this to God. I think when he finally laid me off, I was like, okay, God, I don't know how I'm going to get my next paycheck, but I believe and I have faith that you're going to provide for me. So, he did. I mean, not in the amount that I'm always used to, but I still have bed to live in. I'm back in my parents' place and I'm like, and it's also one way to think about it. It's like, I've been away for 17 years on my own. It's like, okay, isn't this what you wanted, Nick? You want to go out, study, get a good job, and then finally come back and see your parents where they're at. At the time I've envisioned, oh, I would like to retire them already. But right now, I'm not in the position to do that just yet. But at least I've started. I don't want to like waste my time. I don't want to have regrets. Like, okay, if I just stay for another 5 years and hustle, and then that's when I come back, and I'm like, okay, it's like no, inside you're already thinking and praying subconsciously, and the universe opens up for you.
Yes,
Have you ever had
totally.
that? Yeah.
Totally.
You think of
Give it
something
to
and then
God.
suddenly, yes, suddenly something just comes in or a message that says, "Oh, hey, you have this. Oh, hey, you have." Oh, yeah, just recently, I think last week, I finally got my first paid partnership. So I'm like, thank God,
Congrats.
thank God.
Like,
Thank you so much, Pav. Sometimes it can get tiring, when you're on your own, and it can get demotivating because you're toiling, and sometimes you cannot help but to compare, like the Jay Shettys, the Stephen Bartletts, the Joe Rogans, the Mel Robbins podcasts, all of this. And they're like millions of views, and here you are, hundreds, or sometimes, yeah, or one or
hey, you never know. Girls can dream. You can, like, basically, your reality can be as big as how big your dream is. So I think I wish I learned this earlier on in my life. That would have changed my life in such a big way. And I believe that, if you think that you can be the next Jay Shetty, you can be like the next Mel Robbins, you can. It's all about belief. And we talked about it before. Leave it to God's hands, surrender to God.
of you. Thank you. I believe in that. And I believe in you too, Pav. I believe in you. You're just gonna soar from here. Wow. I cannot wait to see you on top. So let's say somebody's listening, tuning in right now. What are the immediate or the steps that they need to take first? Okay, after listening to this, Pav and Nick, they're talking. They're in the same situation as we were in, and they want to take those steps. What would you say to them? What's your advice?
Okay, so two things. Like one is courage doesn't have to be something loud. I think we all, sometimes even for me, I thought when I was younger that courage is all about, oh, you have to do something like a grand gesture. You need to like think big and, like you need to quit your job or you need to like get divorced. You need to, I don't know, become something or something needs to happen, to be a wake up call for you to have that courage and choose courage over comfort. But to me, courage is, we talk about how courage is something that you are choosing every day. It's like all these small decisions, small moments that, eventually shape who you are. So I think like that's number one, to like really listen to your truth, be open to your truth, right? And then the second one is, so I come up with like this method. I call it the courage method. And basically this is like how I live my life by. So it goes by courage, like COURAGE. So C stands for call it what it is. So just, name your fear. Whatever fear you have, you need to face it. If you don't have your baseline or know what you're scared about, it's gonna be hard to like, like we need to know what we're facing. And then the second one is so that's own your truth. Just whatever the whispers inside that you've been ignoring for years, even like for me, for years, just whenever you feel that there's something off, that even when like life or things still look so perfect, that is God. That is you, your voice inside telling you that, hey, like, trust me, if it keeps coming up, then maybe that might not be the right direction. And then the you is unhook other people's expectations. And I think like lots of these are, things that we talk about, throughout like the past almost an hour. And R is rehearsing the reality that you actually want. So back to like how we, visualize what's the new reality that we want, or think about like what the plans are. And A is act before you feel ready. And I think like for me, I actually am practicing act before you feel ready. For example, like this podcast, I'm not even ready. but I acted anyway. In the past, let me tell you this, Nick, like the previous Pav from maybe 5, 10 years ago, I'd be like, oh my gosh, I'll come up with like some lame excuse and tell you like, Nick, I'm so sorry. Something happened. I need to cancel. But new Pav is I'm just gonna act even when I'm not ready. And I call it as God is preparing me for something even bigger. And you really never know. And I'm so honored to be here. Okay, so we are at the A, so courage A, and then G, grieve the life that almost worked for you. Don't skip the part that you actually learn the safer version of you, like the old self that you used to think like you were, because that's still a part of you. You need to honor that version of you and acknowledge that, okay, I have changed now, right? The girl that I used to be, that's not her anymore. I'm reinvented. Sometimes, like, I think a transformation can feel like death. Just like any death, you have to honor it. Okay, courage. It actually take a long time to get to the E. So the E is embodied daily. And by that I mean, so courage is not just a one-time thing. It's kind of like a rhythm of life. So for me, I ask myself every morning, like, what does courage look like today for me? Then I just do that. That's how I feel like I'm just channeling or embodying being that courageous version of me. So that's the last thing I love to leave to the audience.
Love it. I love it. And whoa, I think this is your framework. And yes, for the listeners tuning in, Pav, yeah, we were supposed to meet sometime last month. And then because she's rebranding and I cannot wait what you're gonna, show to the world, I mean, that's a good reason you're letting it percolate because I too, in February, I did not take up any shows. No. And because I said, okay, I need to revamp my website, and I'm back here in April, better than ever, meeting greater, more wonderful people such as yourself. So you're just going to go up from here, Pav. And the message to those listeners, it is easier said than done, but then it is easier done than said. So progress always trumps perfection. This is as many times as you do it, you're just gonna be a master at it. You just need to give yourself time. Anything that's done at least 10,000 hours makes you subject matter expert for that, for whatever topic or expertise that you're trying to hone in. So, I mean, I can also see you on stages, Pav. You're gonna be talking. I don't know. I feel compelled to say that.
Thank you so much. I'm trying. Preparation stage, and do it before you're not ready, even if you're not
Exactly.
ready.
Yes, yes. So, Pav, what are you working on currently?
What am I working on currently? So I can't really tell you all the details, but basically this is kind of like tied to courage over comfort and high achievers. I think like as high achievers, we sometimes don't really leverage our best asset, which is like our skills, our expertise as much. Sometimes I feel like we are under leveraged and we don't really, back to how I think like for me in the past, I feel like I feel safer to be in the background. I don't really always let myself shine. But I think like as many high achievers, there are so many, you have the gift to the world that I call it like you're a quiet powerhouse and you need to really show that. So I'm working on a little bit of a project to help high achievers get paid to be fully themselves. I'm going to document. So basically, that's why I'm on like a social media blackout for the whole entire month. I basically just delete majority of my internet footprint as much as possible because I really want to prove to people that you don't need to have, million followers. You don't need to be such a well-known person to actually live the life that you can actually get paid to be fully you. So I'm documenting every step along the way. And it will be launched soon and in a month or so. So you'll be one of the first to know, Nick. Thank you so much for asking. Sure.
What is your heart's greatest wish?
Okay, it sounds really lame, but I think like in this current economic and geopolitics landscape, I really just want world peace. I don't think that I can be as happy or joyful when I see like people are suffering everywhere. But yeah, I my heart greatest wish is world peace, that people actually are living in peace and joy. That's that's what life is. That's why we are here on earth. It's totally unrelated to this, but at
No,
this
no,
point in
it's
my life,
actually
peace
the
is so
real
important.
reason. Yes. Inner peace is number one priority.
Yeah.
And it even if you distill everything to one thing, we just want peace. We just want love, people to, love and care about each other. I believe in that. I believe in this movement that you're doing, the message that at least I'm putting out there. It's gaining traction, albeit slow, but give it compounding. Compounding is the eighth wonder of the world, and I
Yes.
believe in that. So continue to do that no matter how small you think it is right now. You don't know the lives that you're gonna touch tomorrow, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years from now. So thank you for that, Pav.
Thank you for touching my life today, Nick.
Right back at you. Okay, if you could create a quote right now for you to leave to the audience listening and the world as your legacy, what would it be?
Full of love, full of life, and be kind. I love to know about yours too, Nick.
Okay, I've got a few, but right now the first thing that I can think of is fail often, fail forward.
Wow, that is very deep. That's very deep. Yes, I think we undervalue failures and we mistaken it for, oh my gosh, it's such a bad thing. But what I've learned from so many mentors was that you need to actually add like fail often. Like the as many times as you fail, like you only just need to win once to win at life. And it's better to fail often and fail a lot at first so that you can actually that will lead you to like the winning moment. So I really love this. Thank you.
Pav, you are amazing. So, how can people reach out to you?
You can reach out to me at pavness.com.
Fabulous.
PAVNESS.com, and also on my TikTok as well. Moments of Reset.
Okay. So I'll be sure to direct the traffic to those websites and social media. And okay, Pav, we're coming to the end of the show. But before that, any last message for our listeners?
Always listen to this voice inside because that's God's inside you, every one of us. So surrender to God.
Okay. Well, that is a wrap on today's inspiring episode with Pav L. Thank you for your wisdom, Pav, and for your work and dedication to continue uplifting others. Now, for all of our listeners, this has been your Wordless. Read that again, the juxtaposition of your very soul. Now, if you've ever felt wordless, remember, you are not alone. Your soul chose to be here, to matter. And for that reason alone, you are worthy. A huge thank you to you again, Pav, and to all of you for listening. Until then, I am Nick Nyaras. Keep shining, keep growing, and always remember you are worthy and you are enough. See you in the next
Yay!
episode. Thank you, Pav.
Thank you so much, Nick. Oh my God.
Hi, Pav. Good evening to you. How are you doing today?
Hi, Nick. It's been such an honor to be here. I'm great. Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing great as well. Thank you so much for saying yes to be interviewed today and for reaching out through Podmatch. I'd like to introduce myself to you formally and to all of our listeners listening today. My name is Nicolette. I am the creator for the podcast titled You're Worthless. Read that again, the juxtaposition of your very soul. Now, today we're going to talk about what it means to live by courage over comfort. Now, this is something that I try to be, at least it's one of my top 5 mantras that I live by. And I cannot wait to get into this conversation with you today. But first, Pav, let us introduce you to all of our listeners tuning in for the first time and our returning subscribers. So, hello everyone. We have Pav Lertit Banchong here with us. Pav is a transformational storyteller, speaker, and spiritual disruptor on a mission to help brilliant, high-functioning women stop shrinking and start rising. As the creator of Courage Over Comfort, she shares her personal journey of rebuilding after heartbreak, identity loss, and starting over, guided by unshakable faith and resilience. Now, born in Thailand and now based in New York City, she carries the quiet fire of someone who's faced deep reset. Her story isn't about success at all costs. It's about choosing truth over titles, purpose over pressure, and alignment over approval. Wow, Pav, welcome to the show. Love this episode? Now, transformation doesn't end here. Head on to @holistic.lifestyle_with_Nick, that is on my Instagram, or head on to my website www.denigneras.holisticlifestyle.com for more info on my coaching framework, which is the Lertit Authentic and Abundant Framework, digital guides, and my upcoming events such as retreats and master classes and workshops. Now, I also do intuitive readings where we get to check on your soul path. And if you're also wanting to check